always be freedom. It'll always be freedom.
If we are going to create freedom in our lifetime, we need to explore alternative ways to build community and remove ourselves from centralized institutions that corrupt and erode.
Welcome back to Conversations in Anarchy. Today we are going behind the scenes of Anarchapulco Genesis in Puerto Vallarta this one last time. And this time we are together with its producer, Catherine, and the manager of Anarch Awakening, Paolo. And this time we're not going to be only looking back to how it was in Puerto Vallarta. We are also introducing Anarchapulco's Non-Conformist Series, newest edition, Unleash Your Resilience, Claim Your Sovereignty, that is happening virtually and is live on May 16 and 17. And this edition was inspired by the happenings that were on Puerto Vallarta streets just a day after Anarchapulco Genesis main event closed its door. So let's dive into it. Welcome, Kat and Paolo. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Let's start. Thanks. Let's start with this first thing. How was it in Puerto Vallarta after being 11 years at Acapulco with Anarchapulco? Was Puerto Vallarta good to Anarchapulco?
I think it was great. I think it was a really, really awesome event. It was hard for the team because everything was new. So we were setting up new relationships for every single thing, whether it was, taxis or hotels or food. But we did it. And I think we did a really fantastic job. I think everybody had a really good time. The vibe was high. The feedback's been really positive. And we're going to stay in Puerto Vallarta for 2027 as well.
Yeah, that's good to hear because also on Conversations in Anarchy, so many people have been talking about that they had a really great time and a really great experience. How did you, Paolo, experience Puerto Vallarta?
Yeah, it was a really different experience than Acapulco. I really enjoyed our location and the way we did Anarchapulco this year in Puerto Vallarta. In the convention center was all set up for convention, so it was a dream come true for us, for the whole crew, having proper place to be, air conditioning, bathroom running, and just be well served with good water all the time and all the refreshments and good food around. So it was really, really, really nice, really different from last year. And as Kat was saying, the big challenge we went through was now finding new businesses, finding new place where to go and do things. You were mentioning I've been the manager for the Anarch Awakening portion of it, and all the years we host a retreat that is long and can have multiple people, more people than this year. But this year, what we can found was allowing us only certain numbers, but at the end, everything just worked perfectly and was everything we needed. So I'm really grateful for being to have been in Puerto Vallarta, and I'm looking forward for next year because it's gonna be magical.
Yeah, I'm really happy to hear that. And when you look back to Anarchapulco Genesis, what moments stand out especially for each of you when you maybe felt that, okay, yes, this is why we do this?
I think for me, the way the team came together, a tummy bug moved through the group. And so on different days, different people were getting sick and really having a hard time. And what I saw was so beautiful. Everybody stepped up and filled in and helped each other out. I missed the opening party because I was on my way to it. And I was like, oh no, there's gonna be something really bad happening in the car or at the party if I don't go home right now. So I turned around And we pushed through, and people were so helpful and supportive and kind and loving. And it's just, if you're going to end up sick around a group of people, this is the right group to get sick around, because everybody, they're showing up with all these different modalities. The Tesla machine was there, all these different vendors with different supplements and different things, body work, different stuff. So it was just, that was really beautiful. And then I felt like the closing night party, IMA played, and the string lights were up, and everybody was out. Everybody was just socializing and just in a state of joy. It was really, really nice. And I mean, obviously, during TDV and TCV, we had the horrible cartel stuff go off. And to me, seeing everybody come together, take accountability, where are these people? What are they doing? Do they need help? How can we help? That was awesome too, right? Because that's real life community, and just so much support and so much love. And seeing the children do Game of Village in the kids camp, the family camp area, it was just awesome. I loved everything about it this year, truly.
What about you, Paolo?
Yeah, probably I've been really impressed about the people who are working with us during the whole chaos created by the cartels down there. I was trying to start our retreat when the whole things came down, and so we found ourselves a little bit stuck in a pickle for a day because we couldn't move from the convention center at the time, because we didn't know if we was safe or not. But we had few people to move from the convention center to there, to the villa where the retreat was hosted, and a guy volunteered himself and say, "Okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna go scout the road for the house and see if it's safe to move." And we got in contact all the time, and he gave me all the blockage on the road where some buses or car were just put on fire to block the road, so we know where we had to go around. And yeah, thanks to his information, we made it all through there, and we spent the night. And through the what we call there, it felt like outside of there was like an apocalypse going on, because we didn't know what was going on. And but we've been able to raise the mood really high, and to go through it in a very beautiful way. And that was is something that is been really special for me to witness and to be around. Yeah.
Yeah, the moments like these really show us ourselves in very unexpected ways, probably, and also people around us. Was there any surprises that you discovered about yourselves in this situation?
Should
Kat,
I
would
go
you
first?
like? Yeah, or
Yeah,
you
go
can go
first. I'm
first,
thinking about
Paolo.
that one.
Yeah. Or
Well, I
you can
found
actually maybe say a few words to those that were not there, that have just heard something. How was it actually? How dramatic or not dramatic was it to
well
experience it? What was happening?
for me personally, I got to the convention center around 8:45, was close to 9 when the people was supposed to arrive to the convention center. And we start hearing like what it sounded like, firearms going off. And I thought was like just Bengal, some sort of like fireworks instead, right? And then we were looking to rent a van to move these people. And all the taxi driver were like, "Oh my god, we cannot do this," and they were just hanging on us. And then one taxi driver told us that it wasn't safe to go around town that day. And yeah, So that's how I discovered it. Was like trying to move people around, and then we have two participants of our retreat. They were stuck in a taxi that got set on fire, and they they were all fine. Everything was good, but they lost all their belongings in the fire. So one things that I discovered about myself was like trying to really like lock down and be of support of people that they really needed at that time. And yeah, I felt like I went through like a baptism of fire or something like that. As I was trying to keep people around like tranquil and managing with Miranda and other people around the convention center the way that we want to do things around. So we start to lock down the front. So no, it looked like was an empty venue, and yeah, but was really good. Like stepping up and like really helping people in need at the moment. Yeah.
So that's really great experience, I suppose, because that's something that you can kind of walk away afterwards with this actually good feeling about the situation. What about you, Kat?
Well, my experience was quite different. You know, we had just produced Anarchapulco, the main event, and as I mentioned, started the event very unwell. And I actually had a nurse come in the middle of the night before the opening ceremony of the event on early Monday or late Sunday. And I got an IV drip of fluids because I was worried, one, I would be dehydrated, but two, I had to stop puking because I had to work, you know? So I had anti-diarrhea, anti-vomit medication in my system, you know, and I had just pushed through and did my job. And on Saturday and Sunday after the event, we had the TDV and TCV workshops that were running. And Sunday, I was like, I'm coming in at noon. We will load out the venue then. If you're not working the event, you know, show up, have lunch, we'll all eat lunch together, and then we'll load out. Well, that meant that I was in our condo and not on the road and not at the convention center. And, you know, many of you may or may not know, Paolo is my husband. And so he had gotten up and left early, and I was at home in Puerto Vallarta with our daughter and our nanny from Acapulco and our colleague from Austin. And I was really wanting my husband, you know, like I'm here in a foreign country with our 4-year-old, and we were separated by a violence outbreak. And so that was an experience in itself. But then additionally, I needed to be accountable to all of these different groups of people that were in different venues. We had speakers in one hotel. We had staff and volunteers in another hotel. We had people in condos. We had people at the convention center. We were live streaming the Crypto Vigilante Summit through the whole thing. I mean, the show ran. They were locked in the building anyway. They took a vote and they were like, let's do it. So that should be a really interesting replay if you guys are interested in watching it. It was live streamed in Puerto Vallarta during the whole thing. The show went on. And so that definitely presented challenges for me. And then because I was separated from my husband and because I felt like I needed to make sure, I mean, we had somebody call panicking because they were in a condo above an OXXO that got lit on fire. OXXO is like a little tienda, and they were scared and they didn't know what to do. And we had a live broadcast going where we had people from each location. Jeff Berwick was in it. The venue was in it. each of the hotel rooms had somebody streaming. VIP Plus was in one hotel, so it was like all the different locations. We had somebody on a live feed so that we could all communicate in real time in case something happened. We were setting up a mesh network with the neighbors. We got apps on our phones and we went out, and because we were being told electricity was going to get cut off. So it was wild, honestly, and especially coming at it from a state of depletion was really hard. And because not only was I physically depleted from having just produced Anarchapulco, but I had been sick that week. But then also, like, we were low on water, we were low on coffee, we were low on gasoline in the car, like all these things that, like, you get home after an event, you just like, you're like, oh, I'll deal with everything tomorrow, And so that for me was a major lesson in being prepared. Like, it would have been one thing if we were only low on gas, but we were also low on water. And so at some point the next day, we had to start figuring some of this stuff out. And we ended up, I wasn't going to go home without my husband, and our flight was on the Thursday after the event. And we thought, well, if we try to rebook, it might get canceled. We may lose our original flight anyway. We may get stuck here longer. So let's just keep our flight. And so we bounced and we went up to San Pancho up north. After I knew that everyone was accounted for and that things had calmed down, I took Josie out of that environment because it was really hard for her. Puerto Vallarta is very urban, and we were in like a concrete box. The backyard, it was like a courtyard, but it had like cages built over it, So I'm like visualizing, like, how do we escape this place if it catches on fire? Like, it was so stressful being there because you could still smell the air outside was toxic. When we went out in the street, we couldn't let Josie come out with us because we didn't know what would happen. So she was feeling really confined, and so was I, and all of us were. So we ended up we found an Uber driver. The first Uber driver tried to extort us. The second one said, "I'll do it for cash, but I can't wait for Uber to pay me because it's hard to get gasoline right now," right? So like, I'll do it for that amount for cash. And that guy ended up later coming and picking us up in San Pancho and bringing us to the airport, which was great. But it was, it was a lot. It was just a lot to figure out, a lot of logistics. And I guess what I discovered about myself is that I can handle it. Like, I stayed calm. I didn't break down. I think, Paolo, didn't I wait till we got to Texas to even cry about it? It was like, I finally got home and I was like, okay, I can relax enough to cry. It was just, carrying such a heavy load. So yeah, it was wild.
So thanks for sharing it. In a way, it sounds like it kind of helped you guys because you were responsible for other people. And and you didn't have time to actually break down. But did these events made you think about organizing things for an event differently next year? Or have you thought about that?
I think really, we surveyed the audience and nobody feels like this is going to impact their decision to come back in the future. The survey results were very loud and clear, like, we're not afraid. And the thing is, anywhere you go in the world, especially right now, there might be unrest. When we did Liverpoco last year, we flew into Belgrade knowing that there were violent riots happening in the streets in Belgrade, and we just made the decision to land, get in cabs, and head out of there right away, right? And nobody saw anything or experienced anything. It's happening everywhere. And so it was wrong place, wrong time, incredibly coincidental. Thankfully, a lot of people had already left. I think it was a once in a lifetime event. I mean, unless the global culture starts shifting toward global chaos and global warfare in a much greater way, I think it was a once in a lifetime experience. And it's just wild that we were there for it. So in terms of producing the event differently, I think it was handled very well. I think we had protocols and safety plans and figured things out, and everyone got together and worked together. The only thing I would say is that for my personal well-being, I will personally be more prepared. I feel like the event handled everything really well, but on a personal front, I want to have more cash on hand at all times in case something like this happens. And that includes here at home, not just at Anarchapulco, right? But like always having enough cash that if, because there was no cash in any ATMs. Every ATM you went to was empty. I couldn't run my card at OXXO. I did have a little hack that I didn't know about at OXXO where I paid $100 bill in USD and they gave me change in pesos. So that was good because I ended up with small bill pesos that I really needed. Because, like the lady cooking tacos isn't going to take $100 USD bill, right? So I would definitely, I think moving forward, I want to have more small bills on me and just not let the water run low, not let the gas tank run low, like pay better attention and have more forethought, even if it's like, okay, I hit the finish line. And it was like, haha, no, you didn't. You're just getting started. You didn't get gas yesterday, so now someone's got to walk to go find it, So like, it's just, I think more so on a personal level, I want to be more prepared on a day-to-day basis and not from a place of fear, but just from a place of strategy.
Yeah, that's like, for example, in Norway, where I am at, cash is really something that most people don't have anymore on their hands. They haven't had it for I don't know how many years. So that if something like that would happen here, it would be a big problem for people to actually get any money. So that's a really good point that people probably don't think so much about when everything is peaceful. And yes, so this one dramatic day actually inspired this upcoming edition of the Non-Conformist Series, right? So yeah, if you would introduce us to this edition, what would you say?
Absolutely. So the next edition of the Non-Conformist Series is How to Survive the Apocalypse. We realize that all of us need to get clear on what to do when shit hits the fan. Because, you watch these great speakers that they're on stage, they're talking about stuff, and you're like, yes, I agree with that. But then you're in an actual crisis and you're like, oh, but I set myself up at home in Texas for the power to go out, but I'm not set up in Mexico for the power to go out. What do we do, right? So this is a series about what to do. It's a functional, applicable, real life scenario. We're going to be going through what do you do when things go down? How do you have your house set up? What do you need when you travel? What do you need, just to have on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis? What is seasonally and regionally appropriate for where you live or where you want to live or where you're building your bug out location or, any of these types of things. And the reality is it doesn't matter if you live in an apartment in an urban area or if you're like us out in the country, in the woods, in an intentional community, you have to be able to survive the grid going down. The grid has gone down multiple times here in Texas in our time here. Sometimes it's been so cold and freezing that it was a literal survival situation, right? And so if you don't have resiliency and systems that back up systems, things could go really wrong. Here in our house, we have mini splits that dual as AC and heater that have, solar panel capability. We've got propane, we've got wood burning stove, we've got Chinese diesel heater, we've got systems of resiliency. And meanwhile, we've been re-insulating the house and, doing things to keep just things more stable in here and reduce our need for electric and power and all that anyway. So I think it's going to be a really, really timely and really inspirational 2-day virtual summit. I don't ever say dates without reading them because I will misspeak. May 16th and 17th. and those will be virtually streamed. You can get them online, and the replays will be available, after the event as well. So don't feel like if you can't make it on that weekend, don't worry about it. You can watch the replays later. It's going to be really good. I'm feeling very excited about it. It looks like we don't have our full speaker lineup listed on here yet. I can, maybe while y'all are talking about something else, I can pull up the spreadsheet that has who has signed their agreements already, and you can get a little sneak peek of who the speakers will be for this upcoming Non-Conformist Series.
Yeah, so Paolo, how do you feel like you guys are living on this intentional community, and you are, as Kat said, quite prepared probably for the situations like these, but how have you experienced any weak points though that you personally feel could be improved?
Yeah. For example, one thing that it continues to come up for me is the communication systems. It's like it's always a problem to be like all connected together and be able to account on each other when situation of this uh, magnitude are happening. And the very first time that I had the same feeling, that the same need was after the Hurricane Otis in Acapulco. It's like people was unreachable at the time, and how can you solve that, right? So I started looking around a little bit, and I came upon those little LoRa devices, and if nobody knows what they are, is they are little devices. I have a couple here, for example. They are just nodes that you keep with you, and they transmit radio frequencies in the very low spectrum, and so they can go really far. And what those devices create when you have multiple of them, they create a mesh network, and you can keep communication with one another through like big distances. And I think next year for Anarchapulco, we are not gonna have walkie-talkies anymore. 10 walkie-talkies. I think my point will be like to have one of these. Everyone, all the volunteers, everybody in the organization will have one of these, so we can always communicate in any kind of situation or any sort of problems. Yeah.
When you say long distances, how long do you mean they can reach?
Well, it all depends on clear view, because those things, they can go for like 40 kilometers in the right in the correct in the correct environment. So you have to have like a clear vision, no trees, no buildings in between, and really like good, powerful directional antenna, right? But like this device, for example, if I have two of them and I want to communicate with each other in the woods here in Greenbrier, I can go everywhere in the property, and those things are connected. And the property is like around 170 acres. So simple devices with this, like this, they can stay connected with each other in a arch of like a mile and a half, I would say, in the woods. And in an urban environment, it can be reduced a little bit because of the concrete. But the point is, like, if you have multiple of these everywhere, you can always be connected into the mesh network. So if you have just one connection good, you are being able to transmit your message towards the whole network, right?
Is this going to be also the topic that you're going to be talking about on the Non-Conformist series?
Yes. I will bring up this topic because, as I was saying, it happened too many times right now. So it's a clear. For me, it's so clear what I have to do and what I have to focus on to help the community and everybody around us is like more sustainable communication system that we can all like rely on. Yeah.
I think it's worth
Yeah.
mentioning that Paolo is wanting to start a nonprofit to help get this network built because the potential is huge. You know, if the grid goes down for a reason outside of an EMP attack or a giant solar flare, right? But if it's like it did during the snowpocalypse, the grid just can't contain itself. We can still run these. They can be solar powered, and they have batteries, and they will operate on networks that don't require the grid. So it doesn't need the Wi-Fi. It doesn't need to be plugged into the wall. It doesn't need the cell phone data, right? It's its own frequency. And so, for example, if we were to set up a corridor of people with these radios, I could talk to my dad in Kansas City, Missouri, right? As long as there's enough people who have the antennas and the receivers set up along the way, that's how the mesh network works. So we would basically be starting to build our own grid system for our own, but it's a mesh grid, right? It's not a centralized grid like what you have here with, you know, Starlink and Verizon and T-Mobile having their own, you know, systems. This is one that would be decentralized, and it would be irrevocable. They couldn't take it from us unless there was, you know, obviously like an EMP attack or a giant solar flare that takes out all electronics is going to take out all electronics. But if other than that, this is a way that if there's a bad freeze, if there's a cartel violence outbreak, if this is already set up and we already have the ability to communicate with one another, then that grid goes down, that system goes down, and we have resiliency against it. It's not going to impact us in that same way. We can check in on our loved ones. We can figure out how to get food from point A to point B, or find out if certain areas are safe, if you can get through. Because that's one of the things that was really scary, was which direction is it safe for me to drive, right? How do I get out of here? And when you don't have access to information through communication, it's really hard to go places in a situation like this. So if there's anyone out there who's interested in this, one, I would say get your Non-Conformist Series ticket so that you can watch the presentation on this, get yourself set up. But also, not to speak for you, Paolo, but as your supportive wife who loves you and adores you, if there's anybody who wants to help see this, you know, take up off the ground, if you have skills, talent, donation resources, whatever, to get this going, I would love to see that kind of support go toward a project like this. So anyway, just putting that little, you know, note out there to the universe.
Would you
Thank you,
like to share
Catherine.
what?
Yes.
Kit, would you like to share what you're going to be talking about on the series?
So basically what I want to go over is how we have already prepared ourselves for the apocalypse, and where I think we have room to grow. You know, that we're constantly working toward something. But these are strategies like being debt free. I do not want to enter an apocalyptic situation owing nobody nothing, right? I don't want anyone coming after me. I don't, you know, I want clean energetic. So starting from a place of being debt free and creating the resiliency systems that we need to get through hardship, which is an inevitable part of life, to get through conflict, which is an inevitable part of life. And hopefully we're not looking at World War 3, 4, 5, whatever the heck is going on globally, but we might be, and things might get crazy. And if so, are we set up? Do you know how to grow food? Do you have trees in the ground? If not, buy some now. Start growing trees, you know, like food, trees, systems that don't require your constant daily maintenance. You know, what sort of livestock do you have, or do you want? Do you have relationships? You know, we get our meat, our raw milk. We've got a local, you know, source for that we have the best milk I've ever had in my life. And it's raw milk from the cow, right? And so we've built these relationships. We know where to go. We know what to get. And then, getting out of the different grid systems. So are your groceries slowly coming out of the grid so that if something happens, you're resilient to it? Do you have a CSA box? Do you know a farmer? Do you have a garden of your own? Like, in what ways are you able to provide for yourself and for your family that is outside of these centralized institutions? And I think there's a hybrid model. We still go to the grocery store, we still get gasoline at the gas station. But if things go crazy, we want to be able to be set up. And also, it helps to reduce your cost of living after you've made these investments into the infrastructure, right? After you've made the investment into solar panels, you don't have as high of an electric bill. You don't have a dependency on it. It doesn't matter if the power goes down for everybody else because your lights are staying on. And so there's all sorts of ways that investing in yourself and your family's resiliency now, and I'm not, when I say investment, I don't just mean time, but I mean energy. I don't just mean money, but I mean time, energy, brain power, anything that you are pouring into your future and shaping a more resilient future for yourself and your posterity. That's an investment worth making, right? And so that can be as simple as, I'm getting chickens this year, or I'm going to grow one plant. I'm going to see if I can keep one plant alive. There's baby steps that you can take. It doesn't have to be, I'm going out to the woods to live by myself, in a shack. It doesn't have to be Henry David Thoreau's Walden, which it could be. It doesn't have to be. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. I have this idea in my mind that I will actually go show you guys some of the things, like the solar panels on our roof, or but let's see if my camera capabilities evolve into that or not. If nothing else, I'll take some pictures and put it on a slideshow. I may not actually videotape. Maybe I will. We'll see. But that's my intention, is to show what we have set up, where we want to go. And, we're just normal people. We're not bazillionaires. We don't have a ton of, wealth. I would love to have more wealth, but we're smart and we're savvy and we've made wise choices. And I think we're pretty well set up because of that.
So would you say that this event is really both for beginners and already people with some experience in off-grid living?
Absolutely. I think there's going to be some really high-level technical stuff, but there's also going to be some more basic foundational stuff. And what I have found for myself is that relearning the basics actually helps reinforce what I'm doing or encourages me to make shifts. We have a composting toilet that we used in our converted school bus for a really long time. But going back and revisiting composting toilets in general and ways to deal with waste, I kind of have a different vision of how I would prefer to do it in the future. Sometimes you try something and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. But for me, going back and revisiting, it's the same thing with homeschooling. I'm constantly going back and relearning about the Waldorf method. Right now I'm reading the Thomas Jefferson method, which I'm not relearning. This is a brand new learning, but relearning about Montessori, relearning about Charlotte Mason. It's like relearning about getting off the grid, relearning about growing food. For me, it's really good to have it reinforced. But what you'll notice is that everybody who's presenting is actually doing it. And what I like about that is that you can see all the different styles and all the different flavors and all the different ways that you can do it, right? There's a lot of different ways. So you kind of get to choose your own adventure with this. And so, yeah, if you're a brand new beginner, come be inspired. And if you're already on the journey, come share ideas and see what everybody else is doing, because I have found there is never a lack of inspiration when you are in this very do-it-yourself lifestyle, right? There's always people finding new ways to filter water, new ways to cool your house, new ways to preserve food. It's limitless how much there is to learn. And even if you feel like, well, maybe I'm an expert in brewing kombucha, but I've never made pickles before. Like sometimes we can hyper focus on things. And so I think presentations like this are really important because they give you like the whole smorgasbord of what's available. And then if you say, all right, I want to hyper focus on building an off-grid communications network, I'm going to reach out to Paolo. I'm going to work on that. Or, oh man, I'm ready to start growing rabbit meat. So I'm going to reach out to Marjorie Wildcraft and I'm going to work with her and I'm going to buy one of her courses or her video on how to process rabbits or whatever, right? So I think that this can open the door for you to see what's possible and go wherever you want to with it.
So after what both you and Paolo mentioned, it's probably wise also to get some kind of surviving library on paper. if it's not possible to just Google something or ask ChatGPT or YouTube, watch a YouTube video, how do I do this? Suddenly you're on your own.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate of real paper books. I love real paper books. There's books that I have both on Kindle or Audible and physical copies. Because sure, I'd like to listen to the book while I'm driving, but if it's a really good book, I am really trying to curate a family library that are all books that have inspired me or have clear instructions on how to do something. And I think that knowledge is power, and having knowledge that can withstand whatever's going on in the world is really important too. But also remember, a house fire could take your whole book library away too. So having the digital back, like that's where like the resiliency systems come in and can be super helpful.
Let's talk a little bit about the community. You guys are lucky living in one. Probably many people are not so lucky with the community supporting each other. Yeah, how have you had life before community, or have you always had some kind of community that is really supportive?
You want to go, Paolo?
Sure. If I have to start, I say my whole life I feel like I've always been part of some sort of community. I'm from Italy originally, and like I'm from a little village out in Italy, and is the whole town knows each other, so it feels like it's a big community at the end of the day. So when you have like some problems, or if you need something, someone. It's for sure gonna be help. It can be helpful and help you out in whatever you need. And right now, how we do community here, it feels pretty much what it was back at home in Italy, and but we are doing it in a more like is a little different. Here we have like a land where we can do whatever we want to, and we have good freedoms, and it's just beautiful. Yeah.
The first time I went to visit Paolo in his village in Italy, for those of you who've seen the Disney cartoon Beauty and the Beast, and at the beginning of the movie, she's out in the village and she's like, bonjour, good day, how is your family? And she's like saying hi to everybody and they're waving from the balcony. And that is literally what it was like in the village where Paolo is from. We're like walking down the street and there's like a Nona up on the balcony, like Paolo, and then we come walking in, and a kid he went to school with is there, but he's now married and he's got kids, and he's taking us through the tour of his greenhouse in the back of the. I mean, it's so like stereotypical European village. It's so cute and so sweet, and yeah, I feel like everywhere we walk around there, someone, and I think the big difference about where we live now is that most of the people here came here from somewhere else, so we are not related to each other. So there are some intergenerational families here at Greenbrier, but it's really two, where there's a grandparent and then another generation and a third generation. Most of us have come here from out of state or, somewhere not in Central Texas. And so we're kind of like a chosen family. And I could see how if kids decide to stay and raise their children here, this could become like one of those European villages. You know, right now there's like 35 of us who all live here on this 200 acres, and it's very villagey, but it's more of like forest dwelling in the woods village than the cobblestone, you know, city village. It's just a different thing. But I think with a higher population here in the community, it could definitely turn into that as families start to, you know, establish. And this community has been here since 1969 is when they opened the doors for education. 1968 is when they filed the paperwork. We share a birthday, me and Greenbrier, which is sweet. I'm much younger than Greenbrier. Well, not much, but I'm younger than Greenbrier. And I was born in the 80s, so anyway, it's definitely unlike anything I ever experienced before. I mean, I had community through school, through church, you know, through band, through soccer. I've really kept my soccer friends more so into adulthood than any other community group. But this is different. This is like we all live on the same property. We're educating our children together. We all parent differently, which I love. I love my kids being exposed to different family dynamics and, you know, different styles of doing things. But we are all dedicated to raising free and sovereign children, right? And so we are doing that together. It's very unlike anything I've ever experienced, quite frankly. And I wasn't sure about it at first, but I really like it. And I think communities, it's really important that you bring in the right people and you say no to the wrong people before they are entrenched and established. Because I think that's, you know, there was a little bit of that had happened in the past here at Greenbrier. And I think that caused like a depression of sorts. And then the right people started showing up. And now there's like this huge upswell of energy and momentum, and the school is just such a great vibe. And I mean, I feel so happy I mean, I work hard on school days. Paolo knows I come home and I lay down in bed. Like, it is exhausting doing what we're doing, but I come home happy, you know, like it's a really high vibe, but it's, you know, it's a lot of work for the parents and families that do it.
Yeah, but I heard just recently when there was talk about meaning in life, that this, you know, the purpose and the happiness is what makes us as people actually experiencing this meaning in life, that also keeps us going and keeps us going happy. That's really important, despite you're tired and exhausted and you have to lay in bed and stuff like this. But yeah, I'm sure it's really, really big to have it. And it's really also inspiring to listen to that your community and Paolo's community in Italy, for example, are so warm, because I'm coming from the Northern Europe, and those communities that I have experienced, despite I have a like really great people both in Latvia and Norway that I have the greatest connection to, but just for example, hearing my grandma telling, yeah, now my light is acting weird. That's how it goes. But yeah, when my grandma were telling about how it was during the war, that's what we are, you know, preparing at this Non-Conformist series as well. She could tell these really, really sad stories about how neighbors actually were not nice to each other at all. And yeah, how the communities really didn't work despite they were maybe living there for generations. So it's, and also I'm reading a book about it's a novel about a village in Norway where everybody knows each other, but they are kind of minding their own business when it comes to problems, where they could give more support and stuff like this. So I'm I'm really happy to hear that it can be really different. Is there anything? Did you get the hold of the spreadsheet? Can you give us a little sneak peek?
Okay, so these are all people who were not only invited, but said yes, and we have agreements with. The lineup will be greater, but I don't want to preemptively promote something in case something falls through the cracks. Of course, Jeff Berwick, our founder, who has been building a ranch in Mexico. He's preparing for the apocalypse, y'all. Miranda, who has a lot of apocalyptic life skills that are super helpful and resourceful. Ernie Hancock, who some of you may remember, he's been in Master of Ceremonies and a speaker at our events before. He's got a huge ranch out in Arizona that he and his wife started building after they did the Love Bus tour across the United States, where they were really advocating for philosophical liberty. And then they came back and they built this huge, amazing property. I'll just run through this kind of quickly. Jason Christoph, he's an Anarchapulco speaker. David Avocado Wolf, you guys have seen him at both Anarchapulco and Liverpoco. And I believe Jason Christoph is coming to Liverpoco this year. Jay Noon, who does the man camp at Anarchapulco, and they live in 2 domes up in New Hampshire. They've got a homeschool meetup at their house. They've got cows and chickens and garden, like so many strawberries. When I went to visit them last summer, I just couldn't even keep up. Charlie Robinson, our beloved Charlie Robinson, he is going to be talking about systems, and he was our MC this year at Anarchapulco. We love Charlie so much. And then, of course, my husband, Paolo, he's going to be talking about building, these off-grid radio networks so that we can communicate all the time whenever we need to. And then I'm looking at the invite list of who has been invited and hasn't responded yet. And it's going to be good. It's going to be a really, really good series. I'm very excited about it.
Is there something that you guys would like to share with our audience, either about Anarchapulco or the Non-Conformist Series, that we haven't touched upon yet before we wrap up?
Nothing I can think of. Just we would love to see you there. It's a vibe. It's a whole vibe, online and in real life. Both are a vibe. You can chat with the community online during the virtual events. So, and with Liverpoco in Serbia this summer and Anarchapulco in Mexico, you can also watch online and be a part of the online chat if you're looking for virtual community.
Yeah, absolutely. It's that's what also most of the people that have been participating in these events say. The community, my tribe, what they say, you feel so involved and understood. So that's a really, really great part. In the end, before we say goodbye, what is one thing you wish more people understood right now? Maybe Paolo, you can start. One thing you wish more people understood right now.
They need to be grateful and for what we have, and just be honored about it. And sometimes being less greedy and more open-hearted to others.
Totally agree. What about you, Kat?
Yeah, I think gratitude's a great place to start, and just the knowing that it's the journey, it's not the destination. And so as we work toward building a more free society and a more voluntary world, it's the process of building that together that is going to be the fun part. And whether we make it to the, dream end goal or we get part of the way there, what matters is we're surrounded by, each other, and it's gonna be great because of that.
Thank you so much, guys, for all the great knowledge you have shared. And yeah, so dear audience, if you got inspired by our conversation today, check out anarchapulco.com, check out Non-Conformist Series that are coming just in about a month on May 16 and 17 virtually. And as Kat said, if you cannot make it during those 2 days, you can always watch a replay and it's worth it. So yes, thank you so much for watching and see you next time. Peace, love, and anarchy, guys.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.
Thank